All right, I'm working on my Ram. You can see here that the ABS light's on and the brake light's on. Now these have been kind of intermittent, and it blew two codes. One is the rear ABS sensor in the rear differential, which is right up here. This is the switch here. Pull this back, and there's a tab under here that you push down on, and this whole clip comes off, the wires come off and everything, and then you take this out of the rear end. This guy is the old ABS unit. Now there's a hole here, and I cannot remember whether it's 1/2 inch or 10 millimeter. Basically unclip it here, and then what I did is, I can't remember if I had a pair of channel locks or a pair of vice grips, and I worked this back and forth and broke it loose and then worked it up out. Right here there is a small O-ring right there, and it comes out kind of hard, but it wasn't terrible. And then you have to make sure when you put your new one in that you seat this down all the way and get that O-ring in and line it up, put your thing in, and then push your clip back in. I've changed that, and sometimes these lights go out and then they come back on, and then they go out and they come back on. You can see they're on now. The other code was I supposedly have low brake fluid, and I don't. This is the tank that's on the truck. My brake fluid is max level. This is a switch that is connected to a float inside this tank. This tank, the float is bad, I believe, because it's telling me that my brake fluid is low and my brake fluid is not low. So after changing the rear ABS sensor, which was the other code it blew, now we're going to change this. Now if you have a situation where your master cylinder, if your brakes are fading, like you pull up to a stop sign and the brake pedal goes down a little bit, and if it's acting spongy, if it's doing anything like that, this fix is not for you, because that means that this is bad, the master cylinder. It has air in it, or it is bad, and the pump inside of this is pushing through into this master cylinder, and the fluid is going by it. Mine is not doing that. When I stop at a stop sign or brake hard in this truck, my brakes are perfect. You saw me do all the brake work on this truck, and you saw me bleed it. Everything is right on these brakes. This tank, I believe, is the culprit, because what it's doing is, as the computer's looking at things constantly, it's sensing that this tank is low on fluid, and it's not. We're going to only change the tank. That way I won't have to bleed my brakes. But again, I reiterate, if you're having a problem down here with brake fade or anything like that, you probably need to change this master cylinder. I do not have that problem, and I'm not going to do it. So let's get started here and get this tank off. Now the first thing we're going to do here is unplug this. So there's a little, I don't know, it's orange, I don't know if you can see it or not, clip. And this backs out like that. And then this little tab here pushes down and you unplug it. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull all this fluid out of this tank. I have a turkey baster and a container ready. And I'm just going to dispose of this brake fluid. I'm not going to reuse it. Going to get all of it out of here I can. Now obviously you're not going to get it all out, but I'm getting really close here. So what I'm going to do is I'll place some rags under here when I take the tank off. I think that's about all I'm going to get. Now this screw here is what holds this tank on, and there's grommets under here. So I'm going to wipe that down pretty good underneath the brake, just to make sure I don't get anything in there underneath this tank. And we're going to unscrew this screw right here. This is what they call an E7 screw. You can see it there. It's kind of a star, or I don't know what it is, but it's kind of a specialty tool. So if you're going to do this, you'll have to have an E7 socket. And be careful you do not break this bolt. Otherwise, you're going to be down and have to go get another one. You'll notice I have a container under here with some shop rags in it. Catch my extra brake fluid in. There's not much left. And that is what that looks like. Okay, now this tank should be fairly loose, see? The next thing is to be very careful and to not damage these grommets, because these tanks don't come with them. And they come out pretty hard. And there you are. I'm going to clean the top of these grommets off, and I've got the new tank sitting right here. And we're going to pop it on and refill it. Let's get rid of this old tank. And you can hear nothing. When I shake this, there's nothing. When I shake this, you can hear the float. So my float, I guess it's there, but I'm thinking it's all gummed up and bad. And we'll wipe these guys off. Now we'll open the new tank, which is here. You can see the switch on it. You can hear the float. It's very fluid and pliable. Now we have to put this back into those grommets and get it all the way down. Just like that. We'll see if our screw fits and if we've got it all the way in. Apparently we do. It goes into a hole in the top of the master cylinder there. So now we need to tighten that back up. And do not over tighten this bolt. It's just to hold the tank down. You don't need to kill it. I actually would have to admit that I tried this bolt before I made this video, and it didn't break hard at all. It just opened right up, came right out. So then I knew that I was good. Otherwise, I would have ordered a bolt ahead. And you just want to tighten it up about like that, so your tank is nice and solid. And now we replace the fluid. Now my truck calls for DOT3 or DOT4. It doesn't really matter, but I've got a lot of DOT3 on hand. So I'm going to fill this up. There's no sense in putting crappy fluid back in it. Almost to the max. Now my max line is right there. And that's it. There's no bleeding here because this master cylinder was full all the way up to here. And I did not touch the brakes or do anything to it. So it should be fine and dandy. The plug goes back in. And this little orange clip goes forward and locks it on. I'm taking my thing back out here so I don't have that all over the place. I hardly lost any fluid anywhere, so that's good. All right, that's filled to the max line right to here. Now, it may be that this isn't the problem, but because when I shook that tank, it took it a while for that float to break loose. I'm thinking the float might have been working somewhat because my lights have been going on and off and on and off. And I don't know why that is. It may be an intermittent short in that wire back to the ABS sensor in the rear differential. I don't know. We're going to find out right now. So let's go start this thing up and see what happens. All right, here is the moment of truth. ABS light and the brake light went out. This check engine light, I know what that is. It's an EVAP code, and I have to fix that yet. And I'll make a video of that if you're interested. But I think we just fixed this problem. So let's take this truck out and drive it and see if those lights come back on or not. All right, I'm also going to check my brakes, which feel perfect. So remember, if you have a fading brake pedal, this is not the fix for you. But if you have an intermittent light coming on and off, or a light that comes on, or both of them come on like mine did with the brake and the ABS light, it's very possible that you just need to replace the tank. We'll find out. All right, I took the truck out and I ran it for 15 to 20 minutes. These two lights never came on. They never blinked, because what they were doing before is once in a while they'd both turn off, then they'd both turn back on. So I'm thinking that the ABS sensor in the rear differential was bad, because before I changed that, they were on all the time and they never went off. They never were intermittent. They just stayed on. So I think that was a problem, and I corrected that, and now I think that float on that tank is probably over 17 years and 196,000 miles. Somehow that probably got some fluid. It probably developed a leak or something, and maybe got brake fluid in it. I don't know. But I am going to call the brake and the ABS light problem fixed. So now we got to work on the check engine light, and that's next. You know, there's always something to do, and you just got to go do it. Just keep working hard. Thanks for watching this video. My ABS light and my brake light have not come on. I call this fixed. Thanks for watching. See you on the next installment.